Is it time for Denny?
It is. Denny. But before we do, we got to play his theme, his music.
Okay. Yeah.
But Denny, what is the first thing we just wish we had known this summer that someone had told us that would have maybe been useful to know setting our lineups?
Pat, it would have been great, I think, just in my own personal opinion, I think it would have been great to know that Kyler Murray had no idea who Marvin Harrison Jr. is. You know, Kyler said after the Week 1 game where I believe Marvin Harrison saw 3 targets on the day, caught 1 ball for 4 yards. Kyler said, this is our first time playing together, which, you know, that's news.
What the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. Yes, that is our segment right now. As we welcome on Denny Carter.
I like that. That was good.
Really well done.
Yeah, really
we bring
well
out
done.
We bring out the high budget stuff for Denny.
Yeah, as rightfully
as
so.
we should. Hello, Denny. How are you?
Hey guys. Hey, I'm happy to have that intro, and you know what? I am here to tell you what the media will not tell you during the week. We're gonna review it all on Fridays throughout the season.
All right, Denny. Well, let's jump right into it.
I think one of the things that the media doesn't want you to know is that there's no barbers anywhere near where Denny lives. That's quite the do.
He looks like
It's
Keanu
true.
Reeves in Point Break.
A little bit.
Magnificent.
I can't get an appointment anywhere, guys. Matthew, I need you to call in a favor for me.
Look at me. You think I know any barbers? I haven't had a haircut since 1953.
That was intentional, Denny. Well
Matthew
done.
Berry's Tyler Lockett over here.
Yeah, come on, stop it.
All right, Denny, kick us off with a running back here. What does the media not want us to know about?
Yeah, look, I've swept the mainstream media this week, and I don't see anybody mentioning the fact that Jerome Ford, the Browns' lead running back, had 18 touches this past week against Dallas. Really good workload. He ran the most routes of any running back. He had the second most targets of any running back. Jerome Ford is the only running back for the Browns to see a red zone touch. He saw 2 of them. He scored on one. A pretty solid fantasy day. And as long as Nick Chubb is out, I think that Ford is just like a plug and play, like top 15, top 20 running back, honestly, with a little bit of upside.
Yeah, you know, the craziest thing about Jerome Ford is that was a game, like just as we talked about Achane, that game was a blowout. That game, I mean, there was no business, especially given the lack of depth in the running back room for the Browns. There was no business that Jerome Ford had being in that game, but he was.
Right.
And then he got the goal line carry and he converted. And by the way, that touchdown, along with the fact that, you know, Christian Kirk, Drake London, Mark Andrews, and Jackson Smith and Jigba did nothing is what killed me in my guillotine league. I'm still bitter. But Denny's absolutely right. No one is talking about Jerome Ford. Just massive usage, 100% of the team's red zone and goal line rushing attempts. He had a 17% target share as well. 18 touches in a tough matchup, and again seems to be matchup and score agnostic because they kept using him. Because I guess maybe their other option is maybe Stefanski's like, hang on, let me look at the playbook. All right, if we take Ford out, we got to let Watson throw it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep him in. For the love of God.
Yeah, no, he's game script independent, which is really nice, and something that you can only say for, I don't know, like 8 running backs in the whole NFL. It's a pretty nice gig he has.
Yep. Denny, Greg Dortch, who is a kind of cigarette-smoking man from the X-Files type of character on our show, we constantly bring up Greg Dortch. What is the mainstream media not telling us about the human Dortch?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. I mean, look, Mulder and Scully would tell you about Greg Dortch. Okay, that's my opinion of the X-Files. Look, Greg Dortch, 28% target share in Week 1. Cardinals had the 8th most dropbacks in that game against the Bills on the week. And, you know, he's playing in a game here where the Rams and the Cardinals have the second highest game total of Week 2 at 48.5. I think this shapes up as a back-and-forth affair. And look, with Marvin Harrison not really knowing the offense or like not really knowing Kyler Murray, like we talked about on Galaxy Brains, me and Pat Daugherty, maybe Greg Dortch right now, honestly, is the wide receiver one. The media won't tell you this.
Yeah, I don't know why the mainstream media continues to hide Greg Dortch and won't talk about him, but we are on this show. We love the human Dortch. You mentioned 8 targets in week number 1. He's had 9 career games now where he's had at least 7 targets, and he averages 14.3 fantasy points per game. Now, some slight concerns. Not a lot of touchdown equity, obviously. He's a smaller guy. He's used in the slot. He's kind of more of a PPR cheat code. Played only 66%. He had only a 66% route participation in week 1. Shout out to Dwayne McFarland and the utilization report on fantasylife.com. But he was targeted on 31% of his routes, which was team high. Like, when he was out there, Kyler Murray was looking for him, and given the struggles of that line, it sort of makes sense that, like, he's kind of looking for this safety valve because Dortch runs a lot of his routes near the line of scrimmage. So, listen, I like the call, and I do think he's an interesting wide receiver 3 sleeper this week in PPR leagues.
Honestly, and Kyler can't stop talking about Greg Dortch. He talked about him all summer, all throughout August, throughout training camp. And, people just didn't want to listen. But I know you guys were listening. I was listening.
I throughout the preseason, I made a couple of different guys where I said, listen, at some point this season, Greg Dortch is going to be a thing. Luke McCaffrey is another one that I keep telling you. At some point this season, Luke McCaffrey is going to be a thing, and Greg Dortch is going to be a thing. Also, Josh Allen. At some point, Josh Allen will be a thing. Mark that name down, too.
Denny, one backfield the mainstream media refuses to talk about, and we can actually agree with, is the Raiders. But is there something untapped in this group?
There is, and it's not pretty. I'm not going to paint like a gorgeous picture of how Alexander Mattison can or will be used this week against the Ravens. But we know this, that you talk about game script independence. Zamir White does not have that, okay? Zamir White is going to be very, very sensitive to game script. You're hoping that the Raiders get ahead in games and then they can feed him and be run heavy like the team wants to be. But really, they're not going to be able to do that because here's the thing about the Raiders. They stink, okay? And I think that mainstream media actually will tell you that. Madison last week, 2nd most running back targets in week 1, 6th most running back receiving yards, 43. I know it's nothing to write home about. But he ran 24 routes to only 10 routes for Zamir White. So we know that if the Raiders fall behind the Ravens, and here's a clue, just real quick, the Raiders will fall behind the Ravens this week. It's going to be the Madison show. It's going to be a bunch of checkdowns. I also have a fancy stat for you guys. Gardner Minshew, 15 pass attempts behind the line of scrimmage in week 1. We have a scam on our hands, and his name is Alexander Mattison. We love it.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And also now we have 2 years of back-to-back evidence that coaches inexplicably love Alexander Mattison in the NFL despite a seemingly complete lack of ceiling for production. So that helps Alexander Madison's case.
Like a floor.
Exactly. And then the other thing too is that, like, you come in with the ideas that certain guys are entrenched as being the guy, but, like, they don't have the pedigree and they've never done it before. So, like, why is Zamir White entrenched as a workhorse back? Why is Javonte Williams entrenched as a workhorse back? Like, these are the situations that can create variance.
One thing the mainstream media definitely will not talk about, and in this one you sort of get it, is the Broncos passing attack. I think they saw it and they said, no one's going to be interested in this. But is there potentially some fantasy value there, Denny?
Absolutely. The mainstream press won't talk about the Broncos passing attack, so we at NBC Sports, we're going to do it. Okay, we refuse to be silenced. Devaughn Vele, who is a guy I know about now because he saw 8 targets in week 1. He caught all 8. Primarily from the slot, okay? He played a good number of the snaps. He wasn't an every down player, but was targeted on 30% of his routes, which is kind of crazy. Second only to Cortland Sutton in that offense. And the Broncos were crazy pass heavy. I don't know if that's the plan going forward, guys, but they were very pass heavy in week 1. And the Broncos are underdogs this week to the Steelers. It's kind of an ugly matchup. But we could be talking about a high volume offense as far as plays go. So Vele could just get there based on volume. It's not going to be pretty. Again, like Madison, not going to be pretty. But the mainstream media needs to really check in on Vele because I think he's going to be a thing.
Yeah, Denny, I'm with you on this. And listen, 51 dropbacks for Bo Nix is absolutely insane. But the reality is this team might be bad enough that I'm not going to say 51 dropbacks is sustainable, but being a pass-heavy team is. And when you look at Vele, he's somebody that they want him to be a power slot. He played over 80% of his snaps week 1 in the slot. He's 6'4", so he doesn't look like your traditional slot, but he's a good route runner. A little bit of different story. A 7th-round pick because he was a 26-year-old rookie out of Utah, went on a church mission, so missed some of those years, started college late in 2019 as a walk-on. So I think they might have found something. Listen, is it going to be pretty? No, but is he going to get 5 or 6 targets in a pass offense that has nothing? There's a good chance.
I think, and what you're also telling me here is God loves him.
Absolutely.
When you take 2 years off from the NFL to do a church mission, I mean, God loves you. God's going to make sure the ball finds
that's
you.
Analytics. That's analytics.
Right.
There.
The numbers
No
are
one
telling
talks
us that.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. The mainstream media definitely won't talk about that. Now, average depth of target of literally 2.1. I mean, it was all dink and dunk, but still.
Welcome to the Bo Nix experience.
Right, but the other, and I've mentioned this many times before. I'm in a crazy deep dynasty league with a bunch of people in the fantasy football industry. 12-team league, 33-man rosters, three-man IR. So it is like anyone with a pulse is taken. But for whatever it's worth, we have a $1,000 fab, and Vele went for $1,000 this week in waivers. Somebody bid their entire budget.
Enough, I'll advise that, but
I mean, right.
Yeah.
I put in a $150 bid.
Right.
And I was just yeah, sure. Well, anyway, but so just there are some believers out there, Denny, and now that the mainstream media. Now that we're shining a light on the mainstream media's ignorance of the passing attack in Denver, maybe his profile will rise.
Yeah. It's about time. And by the way, it's a check down league, guys, as you saw in week 1. So guys like this are going to be involved whether we like it or not. There's no more deep ball except for if you're Anthony Richardson, you can throw the ball 70 yards from your knees. Beyond that, it's just check downs all day, especially from Bo Nix.
Yeah, we also
especially from Bo Nix.
We need the mainstream media to give us consensus on how to say this guy's name. Between
Vele,
importer, exporter, Art Vanderlei. There's a lot of confusing names around. I'm going with Vele for now.
The only thing there is no confusion about, once again, Denny Carter, you crushed it. We will all follow you on Twitter at CDCarter13. That is the real account. There's many parody accounts of Denny, but the real one is at CDCarter13.
Don't be fooled.
Yeah, don't be fooled. Go get a haircut, my friend, and
keep it growing.
Yeah, keep it growing. Anyway, yeah, I'm just jealous because I can't grow hair. Obviously, you can. You just wake up in the morning and you have this luxurious full head of hair, and I'm jealous. Yeah, a lot going on. But
thanks, Denny.
We'll see you next week, brother.
Thank you, Denny.
All right, man.
Bye.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.